Let's remember that motion shifts emotion. If the leader, Siphiwe, starts to role model frequent breaks, we should make it quite okay for people to squat at their desk or to have a mini trampoline on our floor. Having these regular breaks is very, very important.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Organizational Behavior with Siphiwe Moyo. I have another great guest, one of the best huggers in the business. Joni Peddie is a behavioral strategist, executive coach, keynote speaker, and strategic facilitator with over 33 years of experience. As the CEO of Resilient People, she focuses on enhancing leaders and teams' energy, motivation, and self-awareness by improving holistic well-being. Joni's work addresses various dimensions of resilience, including mind, body, emotions, and purpose. She's also past president of the Professional Speakers Association of Southern Africa and a board member of the Global Speakers Federation. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, a very big welcome to Joni Peddie. Hey, Joni.
Hi there, Siphiwe, and of course the best accolade there is my hugging ability.
Absolutely.
We start off with some neuroscience, shall we? Because I wasn't thinking about that when you introduced me, but now I am. I'm fascinated by this organ between our ears. And, it's this 20 centimeters that really helps us live a good life and a well life. And when we hug, as humans, we transfer oxytocin, which is a bonding hormone. And we first get oxytocin when our mothers breastfeed us. So I think we should carry on with getting more oxytocin in life and give good 60-second hugs, not just those fleeting, meaningless kind of flyby hugs, but a good stop, breathe in, absorb the person's energy and transfer good energy from one person to another.
So there's been a bit of science to our hugs.
There you go. Bit of science to our hugs, yes. And I love your energy, so you feel like I'm sucking it out of you when I give you a good hug.
I do. I was thinking about this. There's so much I could be speaking to you about, and for me, the first one is just the sleep thing that you are really, really passionate about. You emphasize the importance of sleep for your overall well-being. First of all, why are you passionate about sleep? And secondly, how does quality of sleep actually affect our mental, emotional, and physical resilience?
To answer your first question, why am I passionate about sleep? There is a real story behind this, is that I lost my husband unexpectedly 17 years ago, and I became addicted to sleeping tablets. So I just realized that in trying to run a business and have two small children, 7 and 9 at the time, I wasn't managing mentally, physically, or emotionally. So I kicked the habit of those sleeping tablets, and I think they were really good for a period of time. I used to kiss that still Knox box as I went to bed every night and thank the new product development person who, came up with that pill. It was really helpful for me. I became really interested in what does this organ do when we put our head on the pillow and we go lala. And that fascination is that the brain is not sleeping at night. So what does it do? Your second part of your question, Siphiwe, is a good one. Does it affect us mentally if we don't sleep well? Yes, it absolutely does. Because as humans, we are trying to solve problems every day. We're trying to get projects over the line. So that mental clarity, it's a necessity to get at least 7 hours of sleep because the brain is washing out all the toxins from the day. And of course, it's saving all the learnings in your hippocampus. So it's really important for mental clarity. It's very important, as you mentioned, for emotional resilience as well. Because as humans, we, all emotions are valid and we can get irritable and slightly kind of, ratty. And we don't function well when we are irritable and ratty. We function much better when we are in a calmer state or we understand where the anger is coming from. So emotional regulation, which is what this is behind me here, or the EQ competencies, you can only really be your best self if you've had a good night's sleep. And then the third part you mentioned is physical vitality. And of course, we are as one ecosystem. When this has slept well, as in our organ between our ears, it also is the master organ for our immune system and our hormonal system and our general vitality. So sleep, I realized, is our superpower.
It really is. And I think I cringe when I see some of my old posts when I was a little bit younger, in my 30s. I think there was this phase of my life where I'm like, we'll sleep when we're dead. Get your degree. I think the other messages were, of course, fine around working hard and whatever. But when I look at some of these messages and I realize now how grumpy, irritable, and even I actually think I become a different person when I haven't had a good quality sleep.
So true. And you just brought back a memory, Siphiwe, that I haven't thought about for years. So I'm a bit older than you. I'm 58. And I can remember in my late 20s, early 30s, having cassettes, which I don't know if your listeners even know what a cassette is, but I used to put it into, that little cassette holder.
Yes.
And I was training myself to sleep less. I thought exactly like you did. I'll sleep when I die. What if I could sleep only 4 hours a night? I would have a hugely productive day. And it was just such false economy. And that great sleep science coming from Professor Matthew Walker, who wrote the book Why We Sleep, and Ariana Huffington, none of that had come out yet. But I remember my younger self being quite foolish about trying to just sleep less and play more, or work more, whatever I wanted to do.
Yeah, it's really amazing. Maybe for our listeners who might be listening, and I know how you have these practical ideas of how we can actually enhance our sleeps or maybe sleep hygiene. So if anyone is listening, what are some of those practical tips that you can give our listeners for better sleep?
Okay, some of them they will not like. So this is a B-bar warning, is that this in my mug here is not caffeine. So caffeine has an 8-hour life in your body. So I go to bed, I'm early to bed, early to rise, and there's no right or wrong there. You can be a night owl, which I'm not. Some people like to work late into the night and wake up late. I'm a lark. I like to go to bed early and wake up early. So I go to bed around 9 o'clock at night, which means after 1 p.m., I do not have caffeine. It's a strict rule. So that is a sleep hygiene thing, is to look at 8 hours before you go to bed. A must do. The second thing is that this organ has a circadian rhythm between your ears. So it doesn't like it if during the week you go, gee, I've got projects, I've got to get, this spreadsheet done, and I've got to get this big presentation designed. So I'm going to, work through the night tonight. But don't worry, I'll sleep in on Saturday morning and I'll sleep in on Sunday morning. The brain and the body is in a rhythm, and it really resonates well to a schedule. So as far as possible, if you can go to bed a similar time, 7 nights a week, and wake up a similar time. Now, we don't want to be robotic. There are going to be birthday parties and weddings and celebrations, and you're going to party into the night. But 80% principle, if you can have 80% of the time as you have this regular schedule, your body then knows when to go to sleep and it will naturally wake up. So that's a second big must. A third is around alcohol. Now, I'm not against alcohol at all. I'm not, I very rarely drink alcohol myself. It just doesn't metabolize well in my body. But I love a glass of good red wine, if there is good red wine, is to say that we need to drink alcohol to celebrate and not to obliterate. What does that mean practically? It means that you've had a hard day at the office. You come home, you have your supper with your family, you sink into that couch and you watching some sport or binge watching Netflix. Please do not have 3 or 4 or 5 glasses of wine or beer or whiskey. Our brains can, the quality sleep that we get from good circadian rhythm, it's reduced by 40% if you have more than 2 or 3 glasses of alcohol per night. Really limit that alcohol if you want to have a good night's sleep. And then, when we lived in nature, in the savannas, and we lived in caves, our brains, well, they haven't changed much in 300 million years. We used to wake up with the sun, and we'd go foraging for food, and then we would go to sleep when the sun set. And actually the brain loves those 2 times of the day. So this is another little practical tip, Siphiwe, that costs no money. If you can get outdoors, even if you're not a walker or a runner, is get outdoors as close to sunrise as possible. And you just stand there, do a lovely breathing technique or a prayer or a meditation, whatever is your morning practice. But look at the sun, it's low level light. In the morning, I call it bookending my day. I do that every morning. And then I do a gratitude practice at the end of every day, watching the sun set. And of course, it's not every day. If I'm working online or presenting, I can't sometimes. But it's a lovely way to start your day with good intentions and to end your day. And it really, cortisol at the start of the day says to the brain, wake up, wake up, wake up, look for food, look for danger, get moving, get things done. And then at the end of the day, when light gets dimmed, then your brain starts to say, okay, get ready to produce melatonin, which is the sleep hormone. So it's really the sunrise and sunset is a very practical way to get into a good circadian rhythm for not only sleep, but your entire body's hormonal and immune system.
I love your, thank you so much for that. I love that statement. I think at the top right of your banner, it says, sleep your way to being a top performer. And for me, it also says leaders in corporate must be interested in whether people are sleeping well, which probably someone is rolling their eyes, but I think leaders should care about how people sleep.
Exactly. And I've done so many keynote talks on sleep for organizations, and leaders do care. They do care that their people are able to switch off. We're in the always on era, aren't we, Siphiwe? We're on our phones, we're on our laptops, we're doom scrolling, we're watching, American elections till all hours of the day and night. So we really have got to learn to self-manage, which is part of the circle of EQ, is how do we put a full stop in the end of our day? And leaders who honor sleep and honor sleep your way to the top is they will say to their people, I will not send you an email after 7 p.m. I had a huge insurance company with the CEO after I did Sleep Your Way to the Top keynote talk. He said, right, you can write your emails to your teams, but do not press send after 7 p.m. Because you're then role modeling to your people that it's okay to be in communication at night. And we know subconsciously that new team members or new graduates are going to go, oh, I better respond at 10 p.m. It produces cortisol and anxiety. So leaders do care, I'm finding, and they're really aware of the sleep conundrum of people not switching off. I just want to say this. I've had this fantasy, and are we allowed to speak about fantasies on your podcast?
Please.
Oh, good. Okay. It's going to be clean. It's a family show, I know. Is that I walk into, big banks of 33,000 people, and I walk through their turnstile, doors as you go in. And I thought my fantasy is to have a breathalyzer on those doors and for employees to breathe in, because that should monitor how much sleep you had the night before. If you've had insufficient sleep and you are near burnout and you're emotionally very low and you can't solve problems or make good, smart decisions on the markets or the investments or whatever aspect of the business you're in, is you shouldn't be allowed in. It is that detrimental. We know in some manufacturing concerns, we've seen statistics worldwide where there's 8 injuries per 100 employees because of insufficient sleep. People are traveling a long time to get to the manufacturing plant, a long commute home, insufficient breaks during the day, et cetera, et cetera. This sleep business is a huge business for business well-being. So leaders should take heed. And actually, when AI catches up and has either an AI in the frame of your glasses or a breathalyzer a test at the front door of the business, we are going to know how important sleep is for making good and smart business decisions.
I love the example, Joanie. I had an incident where a leader in one of the sessions I was facilitating said, you know what, guys, it's okay not to answer the emails during the night. I'll still send them, but it's okay not to answer. But that never works, because what actually ended up happening, which was so funny, is that people were saying, what inadvertently happens is that when an email is addressed to you and you copy maybe 3 or 4 of your colleagues, you also feel the need to actually respond first. You feel like if anybody else responds, you are slacking, which is amazing.
So it's the subconscious hardwiring that we have is I need to be first. And it is, we're living in an instant gratification era, where we can push ChatGPT and get an instant answer. So we've got to be very aware of how we role model our personal resilience with our teams. And I mean, it's saying and doing are two chasms apart. So don't push send as a leader, or, time release it.
Speaking of resilience, John, how do you define resilience? And I think, what role then does resilience play in today's fast-paced environment? And are people either born resilient or not? Can someone else learn it, or maybe not?
It's a lovely set of questions there. So I like to describe a really sturdy table, and a sturdy table, Siphiwe, has got 4 legs. And the 4 legs to resilience are mental resilience, leg number 1, emotional resilience, leg number 2, physical resilience, leg number 3, and the 4th leg to make a table really sturdy is having a sense of purpose. So I describe resilience with those 4 legs, and they're all really important. The first 3 people kind of get, but the sense of purpose sometimes make people sit up and listen. And they go, Joanie, what do you mean? Do I need to, clean the ocean of plastics? Does it need to be that big, hairy, audacious goal, sense of purpose? And I say, no, actually, it could be your sense of purpose for today is to have a courageous conversation with one of your colleagues where you have been dismissed by the colleague, or inadvertently a racial slur or whatever. Sometimes we just keep quiet, and our sense of purpose is to sit up, be counted for, and have tough conversations. So it can be that's big for me, but it's a small part of your day. So sense of purpose doesn't have to be a lifetime goal of, addressing deforestation. So that's how I describe resilience. Your second part of your question, Siphiwe, was, can it be learned? Mental resilience, I give a lot of techniques. So the ones I give are sense of purpose, cognitive flexibility. What do I mean by that? It's a bit of a tongue twister, but it's in this world of, lots of polarity thinking, is we need to, as leaders, think, what happens if we took, budget from that division and we put it into that division as a risk and a calculated risk? Let's look at, the different perspectives of that. So that's getting the brain to work short-term, long-term, instant gratification, longer-term profits, future-proof ourselves with AI. So flexibly using your brain, cognitive flexibility. And then the third part of mental resilience is also focus. So I'm teaching people there's another rhythm in your body, and it's called the ultradian rhythm. So if I'm in the morning when my brain is freshest, I want to write a piece or, design a strategy for a business, is I actually turn my watch off, because I've got a watch that beeps, my mobile, and I put those away for 90 minutes. That's an ultradian rhythm. So mental resilience, it's the self-management of your mind, and there's ways you can learn that, is your question. Emotional resilience, there are ways you can learn your EQ, and I know you're steeped in that topic of emotional intelligence. So there are many techniques for learning that. Physical resilience you can learn in terms of sleep, we've just discussed. Nutrition for your brain, how to eat well for your brain. And then daily movement, how can you do that seamlessly in this very busy world? So I look at all 4 legs of the table, and they are sets of learnable skills. And I would maybe just finish this question, if you don't mind. I've just worked on a series of workshops with an audit firm, a global audit firm, and with one division of audit partners. And they're in the energy field, these audit partners. And I was really intrigued at how little they knew about personal resilience. I mean, they're clever people, and they're working not only in Southern Africa, they're working through Africa, which is all very exciting, and they're making big changes, but they're not self-care. So it's really resilience and self-care is important. And the last point I will make is that I define resilience as the ability to bounce forward after change, adversity, or chasing opportunity.
And I'm guessing there's a reason that's forward and not back.
Yes, there is a reason, because humans are not bouncing balls. So we never bounce back. And a lot of, this particular audit firm went through a lot of trauma, and in taking them forward, as an example, is the past is the past. We can't change yesterday. We have to be in the present. So how are we going to look forward from there? So whether it's trauma, adversity, or change, we can only go forward. In fact, my personal passion on the planet is to get bounce back, those two silly words in the English dictionary, eradicated, because as humans, we can only bounce forward. It's really a very silly phrase to say, let's bounce back and be resilient. No one wants to go backwards in life. We all want to go forwards in life, fail forward, calculated risks, try something new in your team. It's about going forward.
As you were speaking about team, and I'm assuming there is actually a concept called team resilience, and
Yes.
and you find that there are so many teams that have gone through some past traumas, and they just are not able to move past that. And sometimes a leader wants to not only nudge but almost use stronger words like "get over it," let's get on with it, and so on. I wonder, generally speaking, what would be your process if I don't know, a leader is listening to this and is thinking, our teams have had past traumas. We really want to find our way to bounce forward. What would be one or two things that they need to do, or maybe even invoke a conversation with you?
Yes. So one of the things I always say to leaders, if your team has gone through trauma or change, or you're actually just chasing a huge opportunity, which is exciting, but they're worn out. And especially in what we call Mad-Vember, the end of the year. Tomorrow, it's only 50 days till the end of the year. People are stressed. So in a team, I strongly suggest, if they've got nothing else they can do, is I say, let's remember that motion shifts emotion. So with a group of lawyers the other day, 22 lawyers in corporate investment banking, I gave them cordless skipping ropes. So they said to me, Joanie, you're absolutely crazy. We're never going to use these. I said, well, we've got 2 days together, one day doing your strategy, one day doing the Enneagram and understanding personality. I'm lending these to you. If you want them, take them. If you don't, don't. By the end of the 2 days, they said, we now understand as a team, because legal contracts in corporate investment banking are onerous. We know that motion shifts emotion. So if the leader, Siphiwe, starts to role model frequent breaks, or you don't have to have a set of cordless skipping ropes to skip at your desk, but hey guys, it's really should make it quite okay for people to squat at their desk or to have a mini trampoline on our floor. But having these regular breaks is very, very important. And some of those leaders I find use their breaks quite constructively in terms of team and team cohesiveness, saying, right, the Vida Cafe is on the ground floor. Let's walk down the stairs together and have a connection walk. It's a 7-minute walk, but just like, tell me how you're coping, what's happening at home. And I heard your granny's very sick. So that kind of real leader care, and walking together to get a coffee, 7 minutes there, walking together back, that active listening is people want to be recognized. They want to be heard. They want, we are one person. Our home, issues, and some of us in the sandwich, era of looking after parents and children. So leaders who role model frequent movement, motion shifts emotion, real connection walks with their employees, very important. And I love to see leaders who say, right, on a Wednesday morning, I'm coming in at 9 because I'm taking my child to school, or there's this activity I do before work or whatever. So role model that they have this work-life integration. It just gives people in their team permission to say, hey, can I go off at 3:00 to watch a soccer match this afternoon? So those kinds of things, when it becomes the norm to be human in your team, you find then, everybody is, and there's this honesty, this trust that happens. It's a virtuous circle, which is quite lovely. And it can start with small things that don't cost a cent.
Speaking of small things, you often talk about, I think, biohacks for energy and focus.
Yes.
And could you share a few for our listeners? I guess the skipping rope could be one of them. Could you share a
Yes.
few with our listeners and some of the things that they can incorporate easily into their routines?
Sure, I'll go back to neuroscience because I'm a frustrated neuroscientist. Now that my children have finished studying, I've said I'm going to use all of the money that I paid for their studying to go and study neuroscience. Is the small thing is our brain shrinks overnight. So, the beta amyloid toxin, not oxen, toxin gets it kind of, it's like a washing machine. It comes out dirty water. When you wake up in the morning, please have a glass of water and don't have tea or coffee because your brain has gone from a nice plump grape to a little bit of a shriveled raisin. So a biohack is actually to have a nice glass of water and lemon juice as you wake up. So that is one very simple biohack. While we're on the water biohack is that we often confuse hunger for thirst. So have a look at making sure that you drink enough water during the day, not the proverbial 8 glasses, Siphiwe, but 1 glass, so pretty much this 250 mils for every 10 kilograms that you weigh. So if you weigh 100 kilograms, that's 10 glasses. If you weigh 60 kilograms, that's 6 glasses. So make sure that you're rehydrating the brain is a very good biohack. Another really good biohack that I find is micro movements. So again, it's standing up every 90 minutes at your desk. Your good cholesterol in your heart goes down by 40% for every 2 hours you sit sitting. Hence the chapter we wrote in our first book, Sitting is the New Smoking. So you really want a simple biohack, because 33 years in business and I still get this wrong, is I set my mobile to go off every 90 minutes. Now, it's never perfect. I've got a paper diary. I look at my paper diary in the morning. I set those alarms to go off during the day. My husband thinks I'm crazy. Why do you have like 12 alarms going off every day? And it's because it's my quick micro movements. So I will literally be, designing a presentation, stand at my desk, do 10 squats while looking at that presentation. And you're getting oxygen, dopamine to your brain, and you'll sit down still in the flow of that presentation, but something new would have come to mind. So please, another biohack is to every 90 to 120 minutes. Another biohack, there's a lot on this at the moment on cold water immersion. So let's forget about not everyone lives in the Cape. Let's just have a minute. I find it so difficult. I'm brought up in KwaZulu-Natal, so I'm not used to cold, but a minute's cold shower at the end of your shower every morning. And let me tell you, the brain tingles after that. You put your head under that cold water. That's also a lovely biohack. And then the last biohack I will share, because it is my morning ritual, is that I sit down at this paper diary every morning and I've got a little formula, 3, 3, 1. I write down 3 things that I'm grateful for. And it could be seeing bright, brilliant pink bougainvillea on my run in the morning with purple jacaranda. I mean, that makes my heart sing. So it could be I'm grateful for that, or I'm grateful that someone gave me feedback on something that I said that was slightly out of place the previous day, and I'm still, ruminating over that. And it could be I'm grateful for, one of my daughters sending me a happy morning message. So 3 things that I'm grateful for. And I physically write them down so that, head-hand coordination as opposed to typing it or speaking it into your phone. The second 3, Siphiwe, is 3 emotions I am navigating. And EQ really drives our whole well-being. And it could be, that I had someone steal some intellectual property of mine 10 days ago. So I went through a big phase of anger and disappointment and sadness because I lost a friend. So all of those 3 emotions are welcome, but you write them down, name it to tame it. And then the last biohack that I have at my start of my day, which is important, is Joanie, the one. What is the one thing I'm going to get over the line today? So, for me, the one thing I want to get over the line today is I've done a white paper on leadership for financial services that's gone down well. And with my recent working in auditing, I want to now do a white paper on auditing. So I want to do the research today. So I'm never going to finish that white paper today, but I want to do some of the research. So, but the one thing could be book your car in for a service that you've been delaying for the last 2 weeks, or book that dental appointment. So 3 things that you are grateful for, 3 emotions you're navigating, name it to tame it, and the one thing you want to get over the line for the day. It's a great biohack to set yourself up for success.
Sounds absolutely amazing. And I think those obviously work very well on our personal lives. Do you think, are there any things that leaders can do to almost give an environment where this is okay, number one? Or if we have to purchase some cues, because I find that at work, people come to your workshop and they're inspired and they really feel like we are going to do this, but we then forget. Do you think that there should be any cues that we should have in the workplace to maybe infuse these biohacks during the day, as you say? Because even if I exercise for 45 minutes in the morning, if I'm going to sit the whole day, it doesn't help, as you keep saying.
It doesn't help. Actually, to your point, there's really good research, Siphiwe, showing that it's preferable to have micro movements during the day than exercise once or 45 minutes in the beginning of the day. So, your question is spot on the money. So I've done in some workplaces and even call centers where I've put up a hanging boxing bag and a set of boxing gloves. And I mean, there's, call centers are known to be very stressful places.
Absolutely.
So I would rather tar roads than be a call center agent. So you go into that corner, you box that bag, and that's a cue. It's a cue that anyone can go and do that, or a mini trampoline can jump there. That's a cue. I think the other things that Google are doing, which I love, is that they have they haven't said you cannot have sugar at our workplace, but they put sweets in opaque boxes. Anything with high sugar content is there, but it's not visually a cue. So, the organizations that have the fresh fruit delivered, and you're having that, I call it the wildebeest nod, that 2 p.m. wildebeest nod where you're going, oh my goodness gracious, like how do I keep my head up? Then you want to go for an apple or orange or, some local fruit is always best. So those kinds of nourishing brain food cues, exercise cues are very nice. And even those, I've got some fun balls with big smiley faces on. I've had merchant bankers have their morning stand-up where it's, 8 to 10 minutes max, and that big yellow bouncing ball is there, the beach ball, and they just throw it to each other and they go like, just when the ball hits you, what's one good thing that you're navigating and one tricky thing you're navigating? And it can be work, home, life, children, lovers, whatever you like. So it's the whole you, and it can be like people, the more vulnerable they are, the more they express, the higher the psychological safety in the team and the trust. So they know that yellow ball is there. They know that it's a 9 o'clock stand up and it's a 10-minute free for all, bounce that ball around. It's energy in the room. So it's those kinds of visual cues and also some rituals in the team, which make you're so right. We can do this individually, but actually you want the safety net of the team health and the team fun in that room as well, or the offices.
I've had the pleasure of being with you everywhere. We've shared the stage and attended conferences together, and you always have things in your bag. I've taken all kinds of things from your I've seen you have frameworks and little things that you can take, and I think those for me have really saved my life, to be honest, in terms of just being conscious and intentional about the things that you do. I suspect you want to show one of them now, but I wanted to. What are you showing me?
It's unfortunate that oh no, it's not unfortunate. Here you go.
Okay.
Is that even the things I've given out. This is the Reboot Foundation. They are rural ladies who bead for a living, and they're just fantastic. So they bead these face masks for me, and these
Yes.
are beautiful beaded eyelashes. They're so beautiful. Sometimes when I'm in a bigger mood, I want to put bugger off on here as well. But I've refrained from asking them to bead that. In fact, they said, no, Joanie, we're not doing that. But, it can be things on your desk that, I have had some teams do this. It depends on the industry sector, where they go, you know what, I'm just going to sit back in my chair and I'm just going to do some deep breathing and put this on. Just block out the world for time. There's beautiful box breathing techniques, or I use Dr. McCullough. Breathe in through your nose for 4. Hold your breath for 7 counts, and then exhale for 8. When you make these things fun and permissible at your desk, you've got these tools. So you're so right. I carry all these tools in my bag. I make different leave behind boxes. This is an Enneagram one for teams that I do the Enneagram with. It's really quite nice to have these tools on hand. I've got a little pouch. If someone is on a flight next to me and they've got hay fever, an itchy bite, want back to ban, a panado, whatever, I've got like a whole kit. I'm the person to come to.
No, that's why I think maybe I want to nudge us into one of your frameworks, my favorite frameworks of yours that you use. I think it's called the Reboot framework, which is quite central to your work. I think maybe it's the right time. Could you please just walk us through its 6 dimensions and explain how they contribute to resilience?
Yes. So the 6 dimensions I talk about for Reboot is how to be vibrant and also shift habits. And this is what the acronym stands for. The R is rest, which is more than sleep. I'll come back to it. So I'll just do each letter. The R is rest. Primary for health. Sleep your way to the top. The E is for eat well. The B is for breathe. And that little breathing technique I've just given you is it just calms down this prefrontal cortex, the executive functioning of your brain. Rest, eat, breathe. The first O is open your heart. I'm a real strong proponent. I'm actually looking at EQ now, gamification for people's phones so that they can do EQ exercises daily. So open your heart is the first O. The second O is move. It's daily movement you just spoke about. And then the T is time for fun. And Siphiwe, I really feel that, let me start with the end in mind, is that we all work hard. Many of us love what we do. But if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So, you and I travel, we leave our spouse behind and our children, etc. I'm sure you do the same with your wife, is you sit down with your diary and you say, hey, darling, you come with me to Bali. This will be great. But then I'm going to go to America, as you did. Is that you plan time for fun with your family and you schedule that. And I do that not only holidays, but with my husband, I say, right, it's date night. So Wednesday night, we are going to go on date night, and there's a little Syrian takeaway restaurant that looks like a hole in the wall. We're going to go and support those Syrian refugees. And he goes, you take the strangest dates. And I go, yes, it's date night. So time for fun, we'll be out of the home for not even 2 hours on a date night because we are early to bed. But it's finding that time for fun. It's with your children, being outside, watching that sunset, habit stack, watch the sunset, kick a soccer ball. If you've got dogs, play with the dogs, take your shoes off, get some grounding from the grass at the same time, lie on your back, make shapes out of the clouds, get that lateral part of your brain fertilized as well. You can habit stack all these things in time for fun. You can even do a breathing technique. So it's really making sure that if you want to reboot this brain daily, here's the micro habit per letter, Siphiwe, is 7 hours of sleep is rest. There's other forms of rest like power naps, etc. Eat well. I just say I don't propose to anybody to be, vegetarian or carnivore or keto, that's whatever. I say, speak to your granny and grandpa, ask them what they ate. And, in China, when, those children are not eating rice as much as Granny and Grandpa, they are suffering because they're eating Kellogg's out of a box. I can promise you they're suffering. Speak to Granny and Grandpa, and then at best have 6 different colors of food per day. And that shouldn't be 6 different jelly tots or Smarties. 6 different colors of real food. So rest well, eat well. The breathing is the 4-7-8 technique. The open your heart, I always say to people very simply, I talk to my 7-year-old grandchild about this. His name is Max. And I say, Max, you know what, if you've had a horrible day today at school and someone was a bully on that sports field, is, you know what, you just got to manage yourself and your own heart. That's your right leg, my boy. You got to walk forward in life with your right leg and understand yourself. And then your left leg is understand other people. Some people don't mean to be a bully. He was just kind of strong and loud, and you're quiet. I've got a 7-year-old grandchild who's an introvert. And so that other little boy is not necessarily bullying, but he's loud and, kind of takes over. So the open your heart is understand yourself with your right leg. And I do this every day. I think, okay, Joanie, what am I reflecting on today? What do I understand of myself? And then what did I learn from or with somebody else, the left leg? So we walk this journey called life, right leg, left leg. And those are the 2 parts of EQ, understand yourself and understand others. And then the movement is the micro movement. I put my mobile on, and the T I discussed earlier, time for fun. So Reboot, if you can think every day, have I done those 6 things in micro ways, and sometimes I habit stack them, then your brain will live well. So Siphiwe, I've just come back from Durban this weekend, celebrating my late husband's father's 95th birthday.
Oh my goodness.
Exactly. Oh my goodness. And the theme around the table with all of his grandchildren was his spiritual faith. He still teaches aqua aerobics, so he is still physically fit. I kid you not, twice a week. He eats very well. He sleeps 8 hours a night. He's set up 3 men's communities. He does a lot of volunteer work. So those are all resilience activities that he's done. And when I say he's mentally sharp, he is mentally sharp. I mean, we're connecting my computer to his fancier TV than I've got. He's like, no, Joanie, those cords don't go there. Like, what don't you know? Like, this has got to go here. Like, make this happen. So we all live well and contribute to society, which is what he still does, and communities. And volunteering, I think, is a big part of EQ. And our brains can be as sharp as ever, but our decisions today, Siphiwe, affect our body tomorrow. So your habits today, sleep, eat, move, breathe, good EQ, time for fun, all this Reboot stuff we're sharing, it's very important, because whatever you're doing today, your brain, all of those, different toxins like beta amyloid, it's a plaque that grows like the plaque between your teeth. So you wake up at 65, and I've seen a lot of people who are in their 60s with dementia. It's a very, very sad and debilitating disease. So the habits today are very important.
Very important indeed. You work a lot in financial services, Joanie.
Yes.
And I'm very curious about, how does a message like this land? If a high-powered executive is listening to this now, or an HR executive, and they're thinking, ooh, I wonder if this kind of message is palatable to executives who live in such a high-powered hustle culture, grind culture. Have you seen any of maybe an executive who embraced this and maybe they live to tell the tale? Because I think sometimes people would want to hear a story of someone who did that, and maybe to even get a bit of permission that it's allowed you're allowed to do such things.
Yes. So I had one executive in financial services. It happened to be a male, but I've seen females, so it's not gender specific at all. But he was my way or the friggin' highway, like Joanie. They must fit in or fly away. Let's just call him Tom for ease. And I said, Tom, okay, let's understand your personality is controlling, is quite dogmatic, is instant gratification. So, and I mean, a very good businessman, a very, very good businessman. But it's not what you do, it's how you do it. I'm sure all of our mothers told us the same thing. So we did some coaching with him initially on his own, just to understand that he needed to know that his bark was bigger than his bite, and his how, especially for some of those very clever introverts who are actuarial scientists, some of them. Again, that's not a gross generalization. It's just sometimes, they go inward to really kind of, get all of these things clicking in their brain. I said to him, you've really got to give some of those quieter people time to speak up in the meetings before you go, this is the way we're going. I've made this decision. I've done this. Because those people often have very creative and phenomenal ideas. So let's start with changing your communication style and changing how you start your meetings. So he got to understand what fears were driving his behavior. He never wanted to be harmed or controlled, so he came out guns blazing all the time. He thought that was motivating. When he reeled that back a little bit and a little bit more active listening and got the introverts to speak at the start of the meeting, he was like, wow, Joanie, like I learned some stuff today. I can't believe it. And he also learned to, he used to say to me, Joanie, you know what, my mother taught me to count to 10 and it never worked. And I said, well, Tom, here's another way of counting to 10. And this I learned actually years ago. It's such a cool trick, is you say your mobile number backwards. Now, I don't know about you, Siphiwe, but I've had my mobile number for, I don't know how, a long, long time. But I still can't go. I've got to look up for divine inspiration. I've got to try to say it backwards. And that takes 6 seconds. Now, there's neuroscience in that, is that your amygdala hijack takes 6 seconds. Now, if you are in a state of agitation or fury or wanting an answer from a long-winded person, and you like Tom, who's like, give it to me and fast and be done, be gone, is I used to say to him, just say your mobile number backwards in your brain, breathe quietly, and then your whole kind of, cortisol level will reduce and you'll listen better, and perhaps you will hear and learn. So have that, good old Carol Dweck, that growth mindset. So it was amazing, him really looking at his own behavior and starting to include people in the team, the quieter people, set up some people who were ambassadors for, well-being in the team, like let's have a Friday afternoon and go for, they work close to Zoo Lake, let's go for a walk around Zoo Lake and then go for a sundowner in Park View. So some of those things that were work-life balance, but it all starts from the leader understanding his or her leadership style and how they're putting their best selves forward and how they're bringing the best out of others. So it works in those tough environments. In fact, if you had to say to me, Joanie, what's your very best environment? It's with that kind of Tom man or woman, my way or the highway personality, because they often see the light and they are hunger for change. And they love seeing the ripple effect with their teams below them.
And I think what you've just said is that having a leader grapple with this stuff themselves also then helps with the team dynamics. And I'm assuming these are the conversations that you can actually have as a team to understand who you are as a team, and then how do we show up better for each other.
Yes, absolutely. And especially, it may not even be a difficult leader, but it could be, I'm just looking at the kinds of industry sectors where, AI will automate some of those industry sectors. And we've really got to be aware that this, rapid change and the fear that leaders have in adapting to that rapid change is that you really want the good brains around the table in a collaborative way to be debating, to be trying new things, to, putting, parts of their processes into AI, seeing what they can do differently. So this world of, geopolitical strife that we're going through, but also the rampant change, we know that many jobs will be lost by 2030, and that's around the corner. So leaders need to be very aware of bringing their teams closer, that psychological safety we spoke about earlier, Siphiwe, and also that, the overused word trust, but trust is huge. I always look at 5 drivers for high-performing teams. You need to have motivated people who know strategically where you're going. They need to have a change readiness, also for strategy and process. They need to have psychological safety and collaboration with teamwork. They need to know how to execute to get results. But the epicenter of those 4 quadrants is trust. And if you don't have trust, you are going nowhere as a leader with your team.
Oh my goodness, what a fun but really episode which is filled with a lot of practical things. I want to nudge us to a close, Joanie, and maybe just push you for some. If I'm thinking about the Reboot framework, and you've said a lot of hacks for each letter, where would you start? Where would you advise me to start, just to get the habit going, so that eventually all the other letters, 6 letters, would come into line?
It's a very good one, and not many people ask me that question. The clear answer I would have is I put R. I chose Reboot as an acronym with the R first. And it really, if you have a look here, lack of sleep, you will skip exercise, you will be stressed, and stress resilience is a big thing for leadership. You will eat badly and you will have insufficient sleep again. So I would definitely start to prioritize minimum 7 hours of sleep a night. If you are currently, as many of my leaders are only sleeping 5.5, is don't try and get to 7 tonight. Just every night go, let me start small. I'm going to go 15 minutes earlier. And then until you get to that minimum of 7 hours. That's where I would start, because it's a ripple effect from there, Siphiwe.
Thank you very much, Joanie. It's been an incredible chat. So what we love doing at the end of each episode, before I just ask you where people can find you to have more conversations with you on this. Imagine you have 40 seconds. Think about a tweet, think about a TikTok, a video where people do not have as much concentration span, and you want to at least invoke curiosity towards rebooting, towards looking after ourselves, towards sleep as our superpower, and you want to use these 40 seconds to just invite people into understanding this world, what would you say?
Goodness, that's put me on the spot.
That's
okay.
Even the cameras are zooming in. Are we zooming in? The mic is zooming in. It's going to be a beautiful shot.
Okay, 40 seconds. I would say we need to be resilient. And in order to be resilient, we need to bounce forward. Human beings are not rubber balls. We don't bounce back. So 3 things to bounce forward, people, is you want mental clarity, you want emotional agility, and you want integrated presence. And that is an acronym for CAN. We want can-do leadership: clarity, agility, and integrated presence. So make sure you are a can-do leader.
Oh my goodness. Ba, 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 ba.
That's unrehearsed. That was really put on the spot. Next time I'm going to give you an extra hard hug because of that.
That was incredible. It's amazing what happens when you put people on the spot. And then there's you get this gold. I mean, that 30, 40 second is gold. Thank you so much for coming. If people want to engage your work a little bit more, how can they connect with you or participate in some of your programs, whether it's keynotes, whether it's workshop? What's the best way to engage your work?
Sure. I am not very good at keeping my website up to date because things change rapidly in our world of leadership. So the best way is LinkedIn. Joni, Joni, Peddie, like the town of Peddie in South Africa, Peddie, and I'm very responsive. So if you send me a message, I will respond to you. If you want connections and links to anything I've said, I'll send that to you. And I write on LinkedIn Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday with the latest of thinking around leadership.
And you really do. So we're going to put all those links, at least of LinkedIn mostly, in the chat. Joanie, thank you so much. This was incredible. I appreciate you. Even on the personal level, you've really, really contributed to my life. So I'll always appreciate you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Siphiwe. And thank you always for being generous with your time and energy and your insights as well. I really appreciate you as well.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that was another episode of Organizational Behavior with Siphiwe Moyo, and that was Joni Peddie. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.